It was announced earlier this year, made a big splash at E3, and now at Comic-Con, folks are getting their hands on it. Lords of the Fallen, we're going to take a look at, and Steven Skelton is joining me on set, producer on the game. Steven, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
You guys we took a look at your booth on the show floor a little earlier on our show a couple days ago, and you guys have got like a challenge there for people playing the game. You've got a giveaway. You got the whole Comic-Con production.
Yeah, we have a whole set of PS4s running the game that you can come and check out and put your hands on, play the game, and if you can beat the level all the way through the boss, you can get a T-shirt. And we also have Harkin's hammer, our main character's gigantic hammer replica.
I feel like your hands are really not far enough apart to indicate.
I can't. It's really
it's really
enormous.
Big, yeah.
And if you go to our Facebook page, there's a link there where you can enter a contest to win.
Win the hammer,
and
then
figure out where to put it.
I don't know. Do with it. That's your problem. But Lords of the Fallen, you're giving away T-shirts to people who beat that section. Did you bring a lot of T-shirts, or is it pretty tough?
It's pretty tough, and we got plenty of T-shirts, but it's a pretty big challenge because we've been actually had a lot of people coming and checking out the game, which is awesome. But I don't know, can't say what the exact statistics are, but only once in a while does somebody actually get through without dying at least once. And now that's the trick. You can't die to get the shirt.
You can't die. You could get through it, just die a few times, have a good time, but you're not getting the T-shirt.
No shirt.
So the game, Lords of the Fallen, is a challenging game.
Yeah, it's an action RPG. It's a challenging game, but we want to make it challenging but not frustrating. And
that seems like a tough line to walk.
Yeah,
it's
a very tough line. But one of the things that I think works really well in Lords is the animation system, and you can really see the behavior of the enemies, and you can spend some time observing them and make tactical decisions based on what you observe and how they behave and how they indicate how they're going to come at you.
Well, we're going to get a look at it right now in action, and
there we go. Yeah.
First off, we see our. Well, I hesitate to call him a hero, but protagonist, Harkin.
Yeah, that's your character, Harkin, and he's engaged in combat here. And you can see like the animation system is like really nice and smooth, and the characters give a nice indication about maybe what direction they're going to swing, what direction they're going to stab, so you have a chance to actually react to it without getting immediately clobbered.
And then thwack them with your glowing
the glowing staff,
flail.
which is looks like a cleric class weapon.
Okay, so there's a couple different. It's one character, but you can play him in a couple different classes.
Yeah, essentially there's three base classes: warrior, cleric, and rogue, and those determine your set of magical abilities, and that's what you get locked into for the game. But any equipment you come across, any weapons or armor or anything like that, you can mix and match. So
there's no cleric only rogue.
Right. Yeah. If you're a cleric class, you can put on warrior armor and use rogue weapons. So you can mix and match to your heart's delight. However you wanna play.
Very cool. So it looks like we jumped to another area because we're seeing the sword now is in action, and the shield, which I was going to comment on earlier. It just looked like a gaping, toothy maw.
Yeah, that's
which is kind of what the shoulder pads now look like.
Yeah, and they're probably part of the same set. So, but yeah, you're not restricted to using the same set. And there we go. You can kind of see. You can switch out all the equipment that you found. Whether it's weapons or armor or anything like that, and choose what you want, and your character will change, and your character's appearance will change as a result. And of course, the heavier the weapon or armor, the more encumbered you are. You move a little bit slower, but you've got more protection. So there's the trade-offs.
So some sort of familiar balances and trade-offs, as you said, in terms of the armor that you guys are bringing in. What is it? This is the kind of game that people are familiar with and have a lot of passion for. What are you guys sort of targeting in Lords of the Fallen to help it sort of carve out its own niche?
Well, with Lords of the Fallen, what we're doing is, first going for a challenging but not frustrating combat experience, and second, we have a bit more of a focus on a strong narrative and the character story.
Okay.
It's Harkin, your character, is brought into this conflict because thousands of years ago, humanity had this huge fight with his evil god and defeated the god, and everybody thought, great, we've eliminated evil from the world, so now anytime somebody commits a sin, we're just going to brand them an outcast and put a tattoo on their face and kick them out.
And send them out.
Yeah, but this evil god's forces have been returning to Earth, and nobody knows why. And they figure, well, let's fight evil with evil. Let's find the worst of the worst, the baddest dude we can find that's committed the most sins, and set him on this quest to figure out what's going on and to stop it, and that's you.
So you are a real salty dude.
Yeah.
And you are fighting a
lot of overdue library books. A lot of
parking tickets. Just oh my goodness.
So so you're a real bad dude, real tough, and it's your job to stop these forces, and then B, figure out why they're coming back, and ultimately try and stop.
If you're such a bad dude, why do you care, though, man? Like, you're just like, well, you guys branded me a sinner, tattooed my face. Forget you.
Well,
what the hell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the trade-off is like, hey, you do this, then you can rejoin society, and you're cool.
Right.
But it's also you'll find out the story has a little bit of a turn too, where as you progress through the game, you'll start to find clues that, like, well, maybe this evil god wasn't so evil. Maybe he shouldn't have been banished. And maybe I will or will not try and rebanish this guy.
Oh, all right. Maybe this infiltrator who's, like, pooping out horrible blade puddles isn't such a bad guy after all. I gotta say, this thing is grossing me out, and I kind of like it. Is that weird?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of the different creatures are really kind of awesome and unique, and this guy in particular.
I don't think I realized he had a giant toothy mouth in his torso
tummy,
also. Fantastic, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Are you guys, is that sort of grotesquerie like part of one of the design things you're sort of focusing on in terms of creating that world?
Well, it's creating like a unique creature that stands alone by itself. That's also distinct from a lot of the other like major bosses, which are the lords of this fallen god. They're like the generals of his armies.
Okay,
is what who the lords.
So
are.
you're not the lord.
Guys.
You're fighting
the lords.
Gotcha.
So and so to make each one of these guys as unique and interesting as possible. So there's that guy who's the tripody spider crazy thing, and there's a guy that's earlier who's more of kind of like a traditional giant armored guy who's really menacing. So we've got a lot of different variety.
He doesn't necessarily squirt things out that then grow on the floor?
No, but he's got some really cool attacks when you get him hurt pretty bad. He gets really angry and tears off all his armor and then just starts going crazy.
Doesn't seem prudent, but I guess
he's angry.
You don't get to be a lord of the fallen without knowing a thing or two about killing things.
Exactly.
Speaking of, there was a few moments we saw there that was sort of like execution moments or something a little earlier on. So the enemy behavior changes over the course of the battle.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah, and it's also as you're fighting, depending. I mean, you can execute timed combos that will let you chain into some of those kind of specific attacks.
Okay. So you yourself, now do those combos, are those things you kind of learn? Are they weapon dependent? Are they just kind of general attack pattern?
It's an attack pattern and kind of and based on position and timing where you are in relation to the enemy, and then it'll kick in.
Okay, cool. So it seems like you guys have sort of the evil versus maybe good story stuff going on. You've got a couple inflection points in this story, but seems like a lot of your focus is on that combat.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the core of the game. I mean that's the heart of the game is the intense tactical combat, one-on-one or a couple on one. So it's never going to be like 100 guys coming at you.
Sure.
Whack, 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 whack. It's very tactically.
You need to be engaged with that enemy and sort of reading them and reacting to them as opposed to just threshing your way through.
Yeah, you don't get too far just running in and just starting to hack away.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Are there any other sort of modes you guys are putting in here in addition to sort of the main thrust of the campaign?
No, well, I mean that's the main game itself. There are like side quests and stuff that you'll find. So in how the game is structured, so it's kind of a network hub structure. So there's a central monastery that you keep returning to and finding new bits and pieces of the story and equipment and areas, and then as you go out to different areas.
So you can kind of choose which areas you
a little bit,
head
there's
towards.
a little bit of that. So and there's also with the limited edition, which if you pre-order, that you automatically get bumped up. North America, South America, you get bumped up to the limited edition.
Nice.
And that includes a DLC package, which has an additional quest and a demonic weapon set, which gives you a set of daggers and a sword and a hammer and the soundtrack.
just some normal-looking daggers, though. I mean,
No, they're demonic.
Yeah, okay. They're demonic,
Yeah.
and as we saw,
I mean, maybe normal-looking demonic daggers. But,
sure, certainly have a flair for the demonic, I guess. So, folks who are interested in the game, what platform is it coming out on?
It's coming out for next-gen systems, so Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC.
All right, very cool. Is that and you guys are targeting a release this year or like early next? What
October 28th.
October 28th.
Yeah.
Not even a target. You guys.
Yeah, that's our release
set.
date. Yeah.
Very cool. I think I've got a question or two coming in here. Let me just check on it real quick. While we're doing that, tell me a little bit more about Harkin and this sort of. I mean, do you get to know him as a character, or is he sort of you, the player, as a character?
No, I mean,
there's voice acting.
Yeah,
stuff like that?
No, he's got voice acting. And there's a character, and there are story element and cutscenes that you'll find throughout the game that'll kind of illustrate in his backstory and what is currently happening to him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're driving him, but you also get his character.
All right, and we've got a question coming in over Twitter, wondering about actually the character choices, because I feel like that's something that people like really sort of perk up at.
Yeah.
Oh, I can choose. I can make the game different for myself. I might want to replay it. Like, are there many of those sort of moments, or is it just kind of at the end you decide the fate of the whole world?
Well, no, I mean at the end there's a couple of ways the story can end. So you can go back and you can play it a little bit differently.
Okay.
Or you can go back if you want to, like, hey, I want to redo it as the warrior class. There's like 3 different classes, so you can play through it with the 3 different classes and the 3 different sets of magical abilities by itself.
And the magical abilities we saw, I think it felt like most of the attacks we were seeing were melee based. How much sort of is a balance between melee and magic in your attack patterns?
Well, the magic is really meant as kind of like your big gun.
Okay.
So it's meant to be used once in a while, as opposed to the weapons, which are your primaries.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically, the magic is used as like, okay, I need help to get out of a bad situation, or I want to use it very tactically to whittle down a bad guy.
And there's actually another question coming in about the magic for each class. That's the distinguishing point, really.
Yeah.
So can you give us an example of how those are delineated?
Well, it's basically, you can probably imagine from the different classes, warriors more offensive types of magic. The cleric is more defensive, and kind of like one of his things is, he can create duplicates of himself that will fool enemies. So it's really good to use. Some of the guys, you can get behind a guy and get him, and the thief is a little more stealthy. So it's kind of go along those lines.
All right, Stephen. Well, Lords of the Fallen coming out. Say that date again.
October 28th.
October 28th for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks a lot.
Showing the game off and talking about it. That's Lords of the Fallen, folks. If you want to know more, check out GameSpot.com. We've got a bunch of videos and articles up on it. You can get a bigger, meatier taste, and it might taste weird because of all the demonic stuff, but I think you'll like it.
Yeah.